Okay, this video is going to be about crimp-ons and wire nuts and stuff like that that you're going to be used in dealing with wires. You'll have nightmares about wires. So I have an array of stuff here. I have crimp-on connectors. These two items are butt connectors. That's not a joke. It's where two wires will butt together, you know, like so, and they would go in there and they'd be crimped on, and we'll do one of those a little later. Uh, we have female spade connectors. They go on relays and contactors and whatnot with wires, and there's just going to be a ton of them, and every unit. A lot of the wires are like that on the printed circuit boards and whatnot. So we have the red ones, which are smaller wires, up to about 16, some maybe 14. Then we get blue ones that are, say, from about 14 up to 12. And then we get number 8s and maybe number 10. So that's the wire sizes. I didn't invent the system, but the larger the number, the smaller the wire. So figure that one out. But at any rate, that's it. And then we have wire nuts, sort of the same way. We have this little gray one and the orange one, the blue one and the orange one, pretty much with thermostat wires is about it, and maybe some number 16 control wires, stranded wires in an air conditioner. And then you're getting up to power wires here. The yellow ones are just two different kinds. I prefer the ones here with the little wings on there. You get more leverage, so you can really tighten it up much better than this. And so you can get maybe two number 14s there, or 14 and an 8, 14 and a 12, tied together for wire nuts there. Then we go up to the red ones, and one of them is missing. I don't know where it is. I had 3 of them. I don't know where that rascal went. I think right here. I just want to show it to you because there's different kinds. You got the knocking everything apart here. You got the knurled one, and you got a different brand with a little wing like that and a bigger wing like that. And you can do maybe 3 number 12s or 2 14s and a 12 or something like this. And I think you can probably see inside here that the one on my left hand is a little bit bigger than this one right here. So you have to be careful when you're doing wires together. You don't want to do 2 number 14s with a red wire nut. It might not screw on all the way, and also doesn't make necessarily a good connection. You won't be using these too much, but I have them. Every once in a while you have a couple of 10s or something like that. You got to put it together, and I have a gray like that, and then also the wing, and then this great big dude here. I only carry about 1 or 2 of these. Just every once in a while you need something like that. Used to be, in the old days, all the wire nuts were black, or maybe a dark brown. And you can imagine just having a jar of these things and you're trying to find the one you want. So the industry finally got in line and whatnot, and so we don't have to deal with those anymore. Yay! Okay, and actually, if you've taken any of the electrical classes, the Romex cables, they're doing that too, that the white Romex cable now is 14, the number 12 wire is yellow, and number 10 wire is orange. And so that helps you identify it, where back in the day that, they were all just white, and you'd have to put on your bifocals or something to read the little numbers on there until you learn how to tell the sizes. But at any rate, so we're going to talk about crimp-ons, and so I'm going to pull this little rascal out here, which will probably do about a number 16 wire. Now I pre-stripped these so it wouldn't take time. This little increase in size right here on this rascal is where the insulation will stop, and right up into here is where the copper wire would go. And so you can see that it's stripped properly, in that the black goes up to here, and then the copper extends on up into it. And I can put that little rascal in there, and it goes all the way up. I don't think you can see it, but that copper is all the way up to there. And then I will take my crimpers, and you can see in the size here that they got 16 to 10 would be crimped here, and 18 to 22 would be crimped right there. Well, this is a number 16 wire, so I'm going to do it on the top one, and I'm going to turn them over because I want that pointy part to push down where this is open like this, because that's where the seam is, and I'm going to push it down and give it a good squeeze, and then we crimp the little sleeve a little bit just to keep any moisture and dust out of there, and then it's pretty well crimped. It's sort of hard to see the dimple. We'll see it later in one of the bigger ones. And if we were doing this in class, then we would have you cut the wire, crimp something on there with 2 of them, or something like that, and then what I would take and do is a pair of pliers here and here and see if I could pull it apart, just to give you an idea. Because if this is not crimped right, or say that 10 times, crimped right, it could be a loose connection. Loose connection produces heat. Heat produces a bad connection, and pretty soon something happens, and you don't know where to do it. And also, if you don't crimp it right, it's going to happen to you. You're going to be pulling a wire off of a contactor or printed circuit board. You give it a yank, the wire comes out of the crimp-on, and that's still on the board. And then you got to walk all the way down to your truck or something like that to get one and to repair it because somebody didn't do it right. So that's the small one. Then we have blue ones. And actually, before I get too far away with that, I prefer the kinds with the insulation all the way around there. So if that's on a relay, a wire may not hit, or screwdriver or something. If you have it, I mean, they're the same size. They're both red, holding the thing. This part here, the same, even off the great big wire. It's the spade clip is the same size. It just has bigger wires on it. I like them like that. The disadvantage of this is if you're trying to check on a relay or a contactor voltage at this point, then it's sort of hard to do. You might have to pull it off a little bit. But I prefer the kind with the insulation on them. These will take a little bit bigger wire, and I have like a number 12 wire here, which will, again, is stripped to the point where the insulation stops at that little bit bigger part, and I can put it on there. And again, I'm going to have that pointy part do the open part of this one, and I'm going to put it in here. I'm going to get right on there, and I'm going to crimp that rascal. I don't knock my camera over. And again, squeeze the plastic on it. And there it's crimped, and maybe you can see it's dented in a little bit, but it's not going to come apart. And they get bigger and bigger. I have like a number 10 wire that I could put in. It doesn't have a stop there. On this one, you can see the split that I was talking about right up at the 12 o'clock position. The metal is not a solid round piece like a piece of pipe, and that's where I want to crimp. Now you got the bigger ones. You have to be careful. There's not a stop on them like some of the other ones, so you want to make sure that wire doesn't get way up in here, and then the spade clip won't go on. So we're going to put it right there, and we're going to do the same thing. And the bigger ones, you're going to have to use a little bit more oomph and do it. We go down and mash the plastic a little bit. Now you can see a little bit better the dimple right here that it makes, and you can see that it's mashed the wire, and that's not going to come off. And also, you don't see any bare wires here. That's why it's a skill set that you're going to get used to. That you strip it just a little bit. We don't want to see any copper, right at this point, no matter how big or small the wire is. The butt connector, I'll strip a little piece of wire here. I want to cut it straight first. And let's see, get to number 14 there. I think I cut it too long. I'm going to cut a little bit off of it there. And so here's the connector. And what I want it to do is I want the copper to be halfway down this connector. So I'm going to put it on and twist it in there. And maybe this is a number 12 wire. It probably is. That's what it's screwed up on it. Well, I'll do it on the blue one. See, if I go in there, you can see where the insulation will stop there, and I can go in and put it in there and then crimp it on. And if I crimp another one on there, I splice two wires together without a great big wire nut or something. Every once in a while, you just don't have room. Now I'm going to show you just a little secret. Sometimes you know the old geezers know something that people haven't seen. This wire looks like it's a big wire. You know, you think it's like this big number 8 that I just crimped on there, and really it's not. This wire is off a condenser fan motor compared to the 8 wasn't on the screen. You know, looks like it's the same size wire, but it's really not. This is off a condenser fan motor, and the reason it's so big is a lot of insulation, so moisture and whatnot and any vibration doesn't wear through it. But compared to this one, look at the wire size. I know you can see the end of the wire right there. And the only way that you think you might going to be able to do that is to put it on one of these things, because it's going to go in there. But really, you say, well, okay, I'll put it in a blue one. Well, a blue one, it won't go in there. The insulation is still bigger than the blue one. So we're going to want to put it in a red one, but obviously that's not going to go in there. So what I would do is I would take a razor knife and do it like sharpening a pencil, which probably nobody has ever done before. You know, most people don't use pencils anymore anyway. Anyway, I want to shave down the insulation. I get rid of it entirely. Shave it down, because I don't want it. I want the wire to be in a smaller hole so it crimps really well. This one section here. Yeah, where's my little red jobber do? And if I did it properly, go in there and that insulation went straight in there, and now I can crimp it. And I have a good connection because that's the smallest size hole in these red kinds. If you can see down there, the hole is pretty small. So I got a good crimp on the wire. It's not going to pull out. I don't have any bare wires showing here. That's the way I do it. If I use a blue or yellow, even though I crimp down, the wire is so small, it probably would not be a very good connection, and that would get you into trouble. So that's pretty much it. Here I have I think this is number 12. I can put it on a blue wire, put it on there. It's, you see it's going to go in there, all the way. And again, I could crimp it on there, but it would take too much time. All right, so that's the crimp-ons and the butt connectors. I want to go to wire nuts, and we're going to start with the small one. Here's a thermostat wire, and I've cut off a white one and a blue one, and you can pretty much twist these together with your hand, but if you want to use pair of electrician's pliers to twist them together, you can. And then what I typically do, once I do that, I might cut just a little bit off, because I want to make sure that that wire nut covers all the bare wires one thing I pointed out, the inside of the blue one and the orange one are pretty much the same. So this one has a bigger collar on it, so there won't be any wires, bare wires exposed. And I put that sucker on there and do it, and you can sit there and pull all you want and it won't come out. Because if whether it's this size or a bigger one, if you don't get it right and you're pushing it in a box or something, it comes apart, and then goes the time to start up the system and it doesn't run, then you don't know where the heck it is. So that's using an orange one. I can use this. I pre-twisted number 14 wire, 14 copper solid wire, and I could put it on there. And I had it actually a little bit longer because I like to twist them good and then cut them off enough so when that's in the wire nut you don't have anything exposed. And like I say, I like the ones with the little wings on there because I can twist on it and it's not going to come apart. Again, I've got two number 10s, and see how long it is now. I haven't cut it off, because if I do this, get it on there, I still have a chance of seeing some bare wires. So I'm going to cut the rascal off a little bit so I make sure that it goes in there. This will go all over my wife's kitchen and she'll get mad at me. But now I can put that red wire nut on there and it's not going to cut off. And so that's crimping, and that's wire nutting, different wire size. It'll become a skill set just like anything else. The first video I did, I had trouble with the 210s and whatnot, but you know, that's it. And before I forget, generally, it's not a good idea, though some people do it. You don't use the crimp-ons on a solid wire. You can get it there, but the solid wire is pretty hard, and with any kind of moving it in and out and stuff like that, the crimp-on is can work loose. So generally, we don't do it. I've seen it done in the field. I just don't particularly agree with it. When you start working out there by yourself, you are more than welcome to do it by yourself, or do whatever you want to do. All right, well, that's it. Talk to you later for the next video. Bye.